What if I told you that one of the most miraculous substances ever pulled from the earth was also the most deadly? A substance so versatile it was called the magic mineral. It could weave itself into cloth that wouldn't burn, strengthen our homes, insulate our ships, and even filter our cocktails. It was woven into the very fabric of human civilization for thousands of years. And then we discovered its dark, terrible secret. This is the story of asbestos, a beautiful, useful, and utterly lethal rock. Our story begins not in a lab, but in the deep past, with a discovery that seemed like a gift from the gods themselves.
Our fascination with asbestos is ancient, stretching back into the dimmest corners of history. Over 4,500 years ago, in the frozen landscapes of what is now Finland, Neolithic potters were already stirring this fibrous mineral into their clay. The result? Tougher, more durable cooking pots that could withstand the direct fury of the fire. But it was the ancient world that truly fell under its spell. The Greeks, with their keen minds, were the first to name it. They called it Asbestos, meaning inextinguishable or unquenchable. The Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder wrote about it, noting that slaves who wove it into cloth often suffered from a sickness of the lungs, a chillingly prescient observation that would be ignored for 2 millennia. They saw its magic, but were blind to its curse. They marveled at napkins made of asbestos that could be thrown into a fire to clean them, emerging pure white and unscathed. Emperors and kings would awe their guests with these seemingly supernatural tablecloths. The Persian traders prized it. Charlemagne, it is said, owned an asbestos tablecloth that he would use to convince visiting barbarian chiefs that he had divine power over fire. For centuries, it was a curiosity, a rare and expensive novelty. But the true asbestos revolution, the one that would seal the fate of millions, had to wait for the industrial age. The invention of the steam engine created an insatiable demand for insulation. Here was a machine that literally ran on controlled fire, and its boilers and pipes needed to be wrapped in something that could contain that immense heat. Asbestos was the perfect and seemingly only answer. Ships, particularly the massive navies and ocean liners of the early 20th century, became floating cities of asbestos. It was packed into engine rooms, woven into ropes, sprayed onto bulkheads for fireproofing, and even used in the brakes of aircraft carriers. It was the silent guardian against catastrophic fire. And then it came home. The post-World War II housing boom saw asbestos become a staple in every single family dwelling. It was mixed into cement for strong, durable siding and pipes. We called it transite. It was the fluffy pink or white stuff blown into our attics as zonalite insulation. It was in our floor tiles, our ceiling textures, popcorn ceilings, the joint compound that sealed our drywall, the black mastic glue beneath our vinyl floors, the siding on our garages, the wrapping on our basement boilers, and even in the ironing board covers and oven mitts in our kitchens. It was the miracle mineral, the unsung hero of modern industry, the invisible protector. We had, with the very best of intentions, woven a deadly carcinogen into the literal walls of our world, and we were about to pay the ultimate price. But this miracle had a body count, and the truly terrifying part of this story is that we knew. The warning signs weren't subtle whispers, they were screaming alarms that powerful interests worked tirelessly to silence. Those sick lungs Pliny wrote about, they had a name: Asbestosis. It's a progressive, debilitating, and often fatal scarring of the lungs caused by the inhalation of asbestos fibers. The body's immune system, specifically the macrophages that are our cellular defenders, try to engulf the tiny needle-like fibers. But asbestos is a mineral, a rock. You can't digest a rock. The immune cells die, release inflammatory enzymes, and over decades, this endless futile war inside the lungs creates massive scar tissue. The lungs turn from spongy, elastic organs into stiff, useless leather bags. Victims slowly suffocate, unable to draw a full breath.
This was rampant in asbestos mining towns like Libby, Montana, and in the factories that churned out asbestos products. But asbestosis was just the beginning. The true horror, the real reason asbestos is called the world's most dangerous rock, is its intimate, brutal link to cancer. Mesothelioma. Say that word. It's a cancer that almost exclusively exists because of asbestos. Unlike lung cancer, which can have many causes, mesothelioma is a signature disease. It's a cancer of the mesothelium, the thin layer of tissue that surrounds our internal organs. The most common form attacks the pleura, the lining of the lungs. It is vicious, aggressive, and almost always fatal. The latency period is agonizingly long. 20, 30, even 50 years can pass between that single innocent inhalation and the first symptoms. A shortness of breath, a pain in the side. By the time it's diagnosed, it's almost always too late. And the most sinister part is, you didn't need to be a miner or a factory worker to be a victim. A wife washing her husband's dusty overalls could inhale the fibers shaken loose from his clothes. A child hugging their father after work could breathe in the deadly dust on his jacket. The fibers were carried home, a poisonous gift. And then there was the Libby, Montana disaster, perhaps the most egregious example of corporate malfeasance. The W.R. Grace mine there produced vermiculite contaminated with tremolite asbestos in a especially dangerous form. The company knew the dust was killing its workers and their families, and even the town itself. Kids played on baseball diamonds made from the toxic mine tailings. Families used the free fill from the mine for their gardens and sandboxes. The result was a community poisoned from the inside out, with mortality rates from asbestos-related diseases hundreds of times higher than the national average. The lawsuits began to mount. The evidence, meticulously buried by companies for decades, began to see the light of day in courtrooms. Internal memos from as early as the 1930s were unearthed, showing executives knew their product was killing their employees and chose profits over people. They suppressed studies, influenced scientists, and manipulated the media. The miracle was exposed as a massacre.